again, and I'm actually here with a lesson, even though I said that I quit this fucking shit because I do quit. But you know how it goes. I get things laid on my heart that I have to speak about. Now, some of this obviously is going to come from recent experiences in life, past experience in life. Excuse me. Um, Allergy season. I have post nasal drip. The cough is okay. Um, this is obviously coming from, and it's obviously inspired by things I've heard. Um, I haven't spoken much to my mother and sibling since August. There's been, chit chats here and there because Aaron has called or whatever, but I have a new number, things like that. So I don't really speak to them. But, on those days where I think about them and I go look at the last things they said to me, uh, take accountability is definitely one. And, then I have other personal experiences going on where accountability is brought up. And most recently, I was watching a video and that comment came up again. It's definitely a common trope, especially like when it comes to single mothers. That's a big one. Single mothers need to take accountability, blah blah blah, right? So not blah blah blah, but you know what I'm saying. So because I hear take accountability so often when things are going down, uh I found myself in the last couple of weeks checking like what is taking accountability. I know what it is. Okay, I understand what it is, but uh the problem is toxic accountability. I have actually taken accountability. Hey sir, you cannot do that. Please move. You can come over here, you can get on the bed. You cannot mess with that. Thank you. All right. Talk to the cat. But anyway, um, like when I sit and I examine and I think to myself, like, dang, did I actually take accountability? Are they right? Am I not taking accountability? Um, it started making me look it up. In fact, I don't know when the last video I made, maybe it was like 2 weeks ago, where accountability is in the title, but that's not actually what I was talking about. All of this stuff is inspired from, the gaslighting that I've been experiencing. Because, like, no, I did take accountability. I go look it up and I'm like, no, that's what I did. I did that. I did this. I did that. I did take accountability. Hello. Hi. I did. Right. So then I watch a video and that same, that same trope of taking accountability, women, you need to do X, Y, and Z, um, it made me look up, instead of the definition of toxicity, or not toxicity, it made me look up toxic accountability because I've taken accountability. So now we need to know what is toxic accountability, right? So let's get into that really quickly. This is from convergencemag.com. Um, I'm not going to go, like, it's a very long article. The name of the article is Healthy Group Accountability, Learning How to Learn, right? But we're going to skip to the part where it just gives us a rundown of the qualities of unhealthy accountability. Okay, so that's what I am looking at here. It is punitive and driven by an explicit, implicit motivation to make someone hurt or pay for what they've done. It is transactional, focused solely on product or outcome in a way that ignores circumstances that cause the breakdown and the work of maintaining relationships. Um, and actually, let me go back and kind of break down and give you an example of what that means. Um, so, driven by we'll start back with punitive, driven by an explicit or implicit motivation to make someone hurt or pay for what they've done. So essentially, um, revenge, right? So I'm trying to give an example without using my own personal life. Um, for the okay, for the child support thing, because that was something that was brought up today in a video I was watching, right? Where they'll say, well, women have to take accountability. They laid down with they have to pay for what they've done. They laid down with those men. So we are not going to pay child support because they need to pay for what they've done. They laid down with those men. Well, then they need to suffer and never get any help with those children and be stuck with them in the house and whatever the fuck the shit they be saying. There was a man earlier today, one of the videos, he was talking to the girl and he said that her life is now about the children because that's the choice that she made to have children. And she was not allowed to go out without one, at least one. He would take one child, but he wouldn't take all the children, right? So that was his way of punishing the person he was with, right? But that's what this is what that unhealthy accountability is. You made a choice to have children, so you need to pay for what you've done because they believe that having children out of wedlock is essentially wrong. Not everyone agrees with that, okay? I'm not saying that's everyone, but we're speaking just in terms of this example. So then in terms of transactional, focus solely on product outcome in a way that ignores circumstances that cause the breakdown and the work of maintaining relationships. So, this is when they're like, okay, I'm not even, uh, maybe possibly like a buyback. I'm trying to buy you back. That would be one. Um, uh, Hi there. Hi. So this would transactional is when they are not trying to fix it. They're like, "Hey, I will buy you anything that you want." You know, shut up. Instead of focusing on what happened there and trying to fix it and doing the work. And also, I would like to say, excuse me. Um, no, that's about the best way. I'm not gonna quit cheating on you, but I will buy you a gift, and that's an unhealthy way of taking accountability. Reactive. So accountability only comes into play after someone has broken their word, acted out of integrity with no support system beforehand. So this is actually a really good one. That's actually, yeah. Okay. So this one is where a person makes a mistake. Here's a good one within the, hi everyone. This one's a good one for let me think. I'm sorry, it came and then it went. Um so nobody ever taught you anything, right? Let's say nobody ever talked to you about dating and red flags and things like that. And so then they berate you when you go and you date and you make the mistakes that you make within the dating realm. Okay. Uh or like a child. We'll take even younger because we do this sometimes. You never taught your child how to do something specific, but they go and they try to make that they try to do the work and figure it out on their own, and then they make a mistake, and then you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. You're grounded for 2 weeks, and they've never even they don't know any better. There's certain things they really don't know any better, and so then they get this harsh punishment for something that they never knew any information about, right? Um, or like, someone broke their word. I've held someone accountable for breaking their word, but the most important thing is if you've outlined specifically what it is you expect of them, and then they do that, that's when that's what support systems beforehand can mean. Like, if you never told them that you have a problem with them, and then you start punishing them for things that they're doing, that's kind of what that one's about. And then over accountable, okay, a term from generative somatics, sacrificing personal boundaries or looking to hide through appeasing. And I think, to be honest, when I read these things, I'm never sitting here and thinking that I haven't done any of them, right? And I would think that over accountability is one that I definitely have. And it sounds stupid, but that's that. It also comes in small forms, like people who say sorry for everything, right? And I've spoken on that all the time. Like, I'm sorry for existing. I am sorry I just walked in your way at the store. I am sorry, and I did have to work on that, and then I fixed it, and then it came back. So that is a way that it can show up. That's not necessarily over accountability, but a person who's used to like doing that sorry thing all of the time, they probably have some over accountable behavior, which is unhealthy accountability. Okay. Sacrificing personal boundaries or looking to hide through appeasing. Okay. Now, that does not mean that I live this way now, but I have definitely done a few of those things. And even recently with another individual, I could see that I did start doing that shit. Okay. So then we have under accountable, which is a term for avoiding, disappearing, becoming non-responsive, or shrinking away from accountability, right? So these are the ways that accountability can be unhealthy, okay? And the one that I'm focusing on today specifically is the punitive, driven by an explicit, implicit motivation to make someone hurt or pay for what they've done. And why am I focusing on that one? One, because it's actually it's more than unhealthy accountability. If you got 4 more narcissistic traits, that one specifically is a narcissistic trait. Now, you can have a narcissistic trait and not be a narcissist. Okay, there's a difference between having the traits and having the disorder, correct? So, or the personality disorder. So everyone is subjected and can be guilty of having these traits. But that's why I'm focusing on this one specifically, because the driven by an explicit or implicit motivation to make someone hurt or pay for what they've done is a narcissistic trait. And my channel focuses on narcissistic personality disorder and, covert emotional incest, which is something that is primarily done by narcissistic parents. Okay, so there's a reason why a lot of us can relate to having that mindset that, if something really bad is happening to someone and you're not intervening, it is because you were raised with a parent who was very punitive and driven by an explicit or implicit motivation to make someone hurt or pay for what they've done. Now, I know I just repeated that like 4 times, but it's important. You got to get it in your head, because a lot of you are, because you have that view of accountability. In the last video, sorry, I jump around, but it's important to explain that in the last video, I had made a comment about a quote by someone who said that the worst people are the people who stand by and do nothing. Like the truly evil people, that's who they are. Not the people doing the evil, not the people receiving the evil, the people watching and doing nothing, right? Then I went on and I was speaking on excuses versus causation, right? In terms of accountability, because a lot of people will listen to you give your causation and then they will ignore it because they think that you, well, pay for what you've done. And so when they watch people doing fucked up shit and they hear that even if it's true, even if it's true that this person was doing fucked up shit, they will not intervene when it starts getting out of hand because they have the idea of paying for what they've done, and that is unhealthy accountability. Now, qualities of healthy accountability, um, it puts consequences and impact over punishment. Okay, the goal is not to make someone hurt because they messed up, but to face the natural consequences required to repair impacts on the work and each other. And I think this is specifically when they say the work, they're speaking specifically at work, I think. But yeah, it was like work and school. I don't remember what I read, so excuse me. But this is the same, excuse me, this is the same for anything. And I'll use a personal example, the one that I think is the biggest one for me, right? Um, when I had fallen upon drugs and I had reached out to my family, and there we had that letter that I wrote my mom about the pros and cons of the idea I had in order to fix things, they weren't worried about repairing the impacts. They were worried about making sure that I paid for what I had done. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why sometimes you will hear me say certain things, and it's like, no, I know that I took accountability. What I'm dealing with here is, you know, punitive accountability, okay? Another quality of healthy accountability, and this one I love a lot. This one is great for people who have borderline personality disorder, because it really takes away from that black and white thinking. Black and white thinking, split thinking, uh, is the is one of the traits of borderline personality disorder, and what it does is it makes everything wholly bad. Everything, either if you did something bad, you're a bad person, and you can only be a good person if you've never done anything wrong, causing that constant chase of perfectionism, right? So healthy accountability says you did something bad, not that you are bad, and faces the impact of someone's behavior without making them fundamentally wrong, okay? And guess what though? Because you're human and everything is a learning experience, that means that I can do 25 wrong mistakes. I can do 50. I can do 100. I can do as many as it takes, as long as I'm using healthy accountability and learning. Then and still trying to be a good person and things like that. Then I am not fundamentally a bad person. I've just done something bad. Okay, so I've been on the opposite end of, you know, you did something bad. No, you're a bad person. You're mentally ill. You're crazy. Um, those things, that's the flip side of accountability. Okay, healthy accountability. Okay, so healthy accountability focuses on deepening relationships and growing in community, not just producing outcomes. Okay, and that is a major one too. Um, Especially in the spiritual community. Okay. Um, and the reason that is because, especially when you do like the punitive one, or you do the transactional one, You are specifically looking to gain, and there's like an intention of forcing someone to take accountability, that is outside of just trying to love and be loved and all those things, right? Um, so if anyone is doing any of these things that are the opposite, right, then they would never be working on healing and keeping relationships together, building a family structure and foundation, a work environment. Because I think, like I said, this is originally for work, but again, a lot of these things are interchangeable. Okay, there might be a small difference in the, well, there might be a major difference. I'm not about to sell that short. There may be a major difference in the dynamic at work, but um, there's not much difference when it comes to taking accountability. Um, so a person stays grounded in the wholeness, complexity, and context of each person's life. That is another quality of healthy accountability. Okay. So that is okay. We're going to use, trying to think of something within the media. It's not really, it's not that hard. Ever notice how, like, it seems like only men get this type of treatment, but like when a person gets in trouble, right? And they're like, well, he was going through a bad time. And, they're looking at all the different aspects of their life that would cause them to behave that way. But when it comes to women, they don't really do that. They don't think of all oh, gosh. I don't mean to keep making it like the gender war type topics. Um, but that's kind of okay. Men will treat women poorly and they'll say it's because they were hurt before. Okay. But when a woman hurts someone and says it's because she was hurt before, it's called baggage. And she needs to take accountability. Right. um so as women, we try to stay grounded in wholeness, complexity, and context of each person's life. And by doing that, uh we're often very far more understanding of the woes of the people around us. um I'm not saying that's all women. I'm not even saying that's me sometimes. um but a lot of the time, you know you're able to hold someone accountable. It's like trying to tell someone, uh okay, you have two people at work. One person has a car, one person walks and rides the bus, right? Um you may give that person two extra chances about being late to work, whereas the person with a working vehicle, they'll get the standard, right? Maybe the standard is 5, and you give the walker 7, but they both produce the same amount of work. It's just that you happen to notice that every day when that person walks, even if they leave at the right time, they always get there, like, say their schedule starts at 7, they get there at like 6:56 every day. So when they're late, that they tried their best to get there. That's focusing on the context of their life. Okay. So if you need an example of that. So excuse me, healthy accountability roots itself in shared purpose and values, not random, arbitrary, or bureaucratic rules or whims. And that is right there. That is everything that, like, red pill and even sometimes the pink pill stuff That's not true accountability. Like, whatever it is they think they're doing to make men and women take accountability, it's rooted in arbitrary and bureaucratic rules and whims. There's no facts. It's all opinion. That is, you can't. Accountability can, excuse me, accountability can only be held by fact, not by your opinion. Okay, so if you think you're holding somebody accountable because you wouldn't do something like that, that's an opinion. It's not a fact. Because did you go through it? Oh, no, you didn't. All right. Oh, yeah, you did. Oh, but your circumstances were completely different. Do you see my point here? Like, oh, your options and your opportunities were totally off, completely different. And oh, okay, that's a whim. Okay. Is driven by curiosity over judgment. Okay, so that is when I'll give it. I really like the cleaning lady, Ari Katarina. She's Finnish. Okay, and she always, she watches, she asks what happened. She's curious. She's never judging them. You know what I'm saying? Um, Holding them accountable would be getting some of those people into therapy. All right, now I'm going to clean this up for you, but I need you to keep it clean by going to therapy. I understand. I heard your story about how this happened. Um, and I completely understand. That's coming from a non-gentle judgmental place. But then you got the people in the comments like, how dare this person live this way? They're a lady. It's really funny. The cleaning thing comes up as an example a lot for me. I've been thinking about a video that I did for a Quora where the person was cleaning. Like, I literally just thought about that video today. Cleaning is a major thing where you can find people that try to tell people to take accountability without taking any like, yeah, so I was cleaning his house and I found out that he hadn't walked in 4 years, and it's like, you just call this person lazy. you know just by looking at it, without even listening to the story. You know what I'm saying? So, and that leads into the next, which it cultivates and assumes good intentions. And I can go back. I don't know the name of this video, but speaking on how we program ourselves and our children to have a particular view that the world is dangerous. It's a wild, wild world, right? And when we have that type of thought process that we need to protect, we tend to have, this is even just vibrational, you tend to have more negative experiences. You know what I'm saying? And so when you automatically go into a situation in which something bad happened, remember, what happened was bad. The person themselves isn't fundamentally bad all the time. And that their intentions could have came from a place of just, you know, it could have been anything that's not necessarily negative. You know what I'm saying? Keeping that in mind, and like, well, again, we'll take it back to kind of elementary. Sometimes your child will do something and you genuinely think that they did that shit on purpose. I saw a video where the lady I don't know if it was a school counselor or something. She was talking about some of the things kids confide in her. And what I noticed, one of the number one things is, I didn't mean to. It's not I didn't know better. I promise I didn't do it on purpose. A lot of children deal with that. I've walked down the street and I've heard a child scream, "Oh, you didn't do it on purpose." So a lot of people think that their children are like genuinely doing stuff just to be assholes when they literally don't know. Aaron breaks his toys all the time, to the point where I started calling him break my things in 7 days boy, right? He really hated that. I shouldn't even told you that because it really hurt his feelings. But Eventually I did, apologize. I didn't realize those hurt his feelings. But part of the problem is, he gets his toys, you may show him how to use it or something like that. And he'll try to use it, not really know how to use it, or he doesn't. He had a cat toy that he didn't know that you weren't supposed to take the thing off. He took it off, it's broke. They don't know better. But if you don't, if you're a person that's, trying to hold them accountable in a negative and unhealthy way, you would always think that every single thing they do is just to be destructive. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, cultivates and assumes good intentions. Another reason why people wouldn't assume good intentions, and that's where that breeding ground of unhealthy accountability comes from, is because they don't want to look like an asshole. They want to look stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, assuming makes an ass of you and me. And it's they make you the stupid person for getting played. You know what I'm saying? So you would much rather be on that toxic side where you're in control and you're the shamer and then you're the this, instead of being the person that's on the side like, you should have known better. You knew he wasn't any good, stuff like that. So I understand where not being able to assume good intentions could be difficult for someone. Okay. Um, healthy accountability relies on collective responsibility. Every member of a group has a role in maintaining an accountable culture. Okay. Every member in a group, relationship, everything like that. So, it operates consistently over time, not just after a breakdown. It includes clear process and expectations and ongoing follow up and follow through. And all things are not linear, right? Health isn't linear, right? I could be really healthy today and be sick tomorrow and then be healthy again and then be sick again. I could be consistent for like 2 years and then, slip up and be inconsistent for like 6 months. Um, I think the best way to determine that is just the amount of time that you can go with trying to be consistent. Um, let's say I keep using like, hey man, stop that. You can't have my phone. You can't do that. Come here. Oh. I'm trying to think of an example, but I'm kind of getting distracted now. Um, you could have, let's say you guys have to go to the gym and ouch, ouch, ouch. Y'all go to the gym for like a year every day, and then for 6 months you're sick or something like that. Would you then tell that person, be accountable? Like they were sick, right? So you just being aware of the circumstances that are keeping someone from being able to be consistent are important as well. Because they could be consistent if maybe there was a tweak here or there. Um, Clear process and expectations is important too, because if you don't lay out like if you don't lay out what it is that you expect, how can you expect someone to maintain it? You know what I'm saying? So it relies, and I'm be honest, that one I've struggled with certain things. Okay. It relies on collective responsibility. Every member of a group has a role in maintaining the accountability. And that is the end of that. But I think it's important that we start to realign with the proper uh, He's very distracting because he's like really affectionate. So when he's not on screen, he's literally like on my legs and like touching me and stuff. And I'm looking and he's messing with my phone. And sorry, sorry. Anyways, we need to realign with the correct definition for what accountability is. Because the most common one is the first one. I bet you that's why she put it as the first one, as qualities of unhealthy accountability. There are very few people that I see that use accountability in the proper context. This right here, this is what you mean. Drive by an explicit or implicit motivation to make someone hurt or pay for what they've done, or focus solely on product or outcome in a way that ignores circumstances that cause the breakdown. Okay. Those are like the most significant ones that y'all think is accountability. So when some, okay, all right, okay, all right, we're just going to have to put one out there. Um, I can't because I haven't I ever said this out loud, and so that I can't use that one. But that's literally exactly one. That's the first one that came to mind. Um, Let me think of a. I mean, that's literally it. I've already really kind of gave you a good example. Focused on product or outcome. So, yeah, we need to get back to the original definition of what accountability is. What everybody's been running around here saying it is unhealthy. And we need to get back to the healthy version of accountability. A lot less disasters happen that way. Everybody have a good evening. Thanks. Bye.